Imagine a world where you couldn't say what was on your mind without the government stepping in and prosecuting you. A world where words alone could put you in jail. That's a world without freedom of speech. It's not even that hard to imagine right now. Just look at the situation that's currently taking place in Russia. There are Russian citizens who are being arrested for standing up against the war in Ukraine. Hi, my name is Christopher Cease and I'm here to inform you about the importance of freedom of speech. That video I just showed you is exactly why we need to protect freedom of speech in our country. Freedom of speech is something that I care deeply about. It's actually one of the reasons I want to go to law school. I want to stand up for people's speech, whether or not I agree with it, and I want to protect it. I think protecting freedom of speech is vital to everyone's livelihood in this country. Today I will be talking to you about why freedom of speech matters, why it's important to let people you disagree with express their opinions, and how it's vital to our country that the government let people express themselves freely without the threat of prosecution. First off, freedom of speech matters not just to you or me, but everyone. There are places in the world today where men and women are being imprisoned for expressing opinions that the government disagree with. Their lives and livelihoods are being taken away for saying things that their government disagrees with. Is that fair? No, it's not. When referring to the importance of freedom of speech, Genevieve Lakier, who wrote an article for Harvard Law Review, stated, "The free speech clause of the First Amendment has for decades now served as one of the most powerful mechanisms of individual rights protection in the federal Constitution. The free speech clause is there to allow you to express yourselves without fear of the government stepping in and punishing you for having an opinion, okay? Though it does not mean that society doesn't have the right to hold you accountable for your words, which leads me to my second point, why it's important to let people you disagree with express themselves. I heard an interview with Ira Glasser about a year ago, and his opinions had a profound impact on how I viewed free speech. Ira Glasser was the head of the ACLU from 1978 until 2001. He defended everyone from civil rights leaders to neo-Nazis. Ira did an interview in 2022 with Houston Public Media, and he said something that stuck out with me. He said, "Everybody supports free speech as long as it's theirs." This is a sentiment that I think most people can agree with. He then followed it up by speaking about how it's important for citizens to disagree with each other and have discourse over speech. Everyone in our society has the right to disagree with what somebody says. They even have the right to tell someone that they disagree with them. But the one person who has no place in those discussions is the government, which leads me to the final point I'd like to address today. How it is vital to our country that the government let people express themselves freely without the threat of prosecution. I'd like to begin the last section by quoting another article from Harvard Law Review. The First Amendment has served several purposes. One is to protect citizens' speaking opportunities. Another is to ensure that citizens are exposed to a marketplace of ideas as an audience, not just as speakers. A third is to limit the government's ability to regulate citizen speech based on illegitimate reasons. The government has no place to tell citizens what they can and cannot say freely. Society may draw that line, and we may hold each other accountable, but that's not the government's place. Ira Glasser says we should deny the government power to decide who gets to speak, because it starts with speech that you disagree with, but it eventually winds up coming up and affecting speech that you do agree with. In conclusion, hopefully today we learned a little bit about the importance of freedom of speech, as well as why it's important to let people you disagree with express themselves and opinions that you disagree with, and how it is vital to our country that we allow people to express themselves without the government stepping in. If you take anything away from this today, remember that freedom of speech is something that is not only important to me and you, it's important to everyone. I'd like to close with one last quote from Ira Glasser. "The first exception to the First Amendment will not be the last." Thank you.